A CEO runs the company, but can he or she determine who is on their board? Eastern Bank certainly thinks so. Bob Rivers, President and CEO, welcome to the Language of Business.
Well, thank you, Greg. Great to be here.
Great to have you here. So, how much can you control who's on your board?
We control that a lot, as a matter of fact. We have a very defined nomination process in conjunction with one of our board committees that conducts that. But certainly management is highly involved in how that's administered and ultimately how the candidates are sourced.
You've got 3 women on your board right now. Good or bad?
Not good enough. Only 20% out of the 15 members that we have. Higher than many, but certainly not where we need to be. Last I checked, half the population are women, and to be truly representative of the marketplace that we serve, we obviously want to be at a much higher percentage than that.
So if you had to grade yourself on an A to F scale, what mark would you give?
I'd actually give us a B, which might strike you as pretty generous, given that it's only 20%. But when you look at the overall diversity of our board, women and people of color actually comprise about half our board. So on that measure, we're significantly better overall.
Does it make a difference financially?
It makes a tremendous difference financially. There's a lot of research out there that demonstrates that companies that have more diverse boards, more women on their boards, actually perform much better in pretty much any financial metric that you could select. And I will tell you, in terms of the decision making, it is certainly so much better. And obviously one is correlated with the other. In the end, really diversity is all about developing the most robust collective mindset that you can have on any team to make better decisions.
You have 20% of your board being women. How about your management team?
Our management team is about 25% of our management committee. That's the top 15 people in the company. Again, not as high as we'd like to be, but certainly something that we're focused on and continue to work at.
Given the strong nomination processes that you have in place, how quickly do you think you can affect change?
Unfortunately, it tends to be fairly slow. Our board is now 15 people, which is on the higher end that it has been. So we're not looking to bring on new board members on our board of directors at this particular time. Certainly as we have vacancies over time, we'll start to bring them on, but we really wouldn't be back out sourcing new directors for another few years. Thankfully, we have a 3-tiered governance structure. We have a board of trustees of about 50 people, a board of corporators of about 80 people. So our percentage of women among that group is actually approaching 30% today. So certainly much higher in an aggregate sense. And we have much more turnover within those groups. And also the nature of those groups allow us to bring on much more people, as evidenced by the 50 and the 80 respectively.
Beyond gender diversity, are there other changes you'd like to make on your board?
Well, certainly from a skill set perspective, we've had focus there. And of course, that's where we start. Really with any director, any trustee, any corporator, what is their professional experience? What can they really contribute to the company to help us make us better, really in a number of different things. When it comes to the board of directors, we've really been focused on bringing on people that really understand the changes that technology are really driving in financial services, a critical issue for us right now. So in recent years, we brought on directors that have specific knowledge in that space to help guide and advise us.
What do you think the perfect board looks like in terms of skill sets, gender, and everything else?
Well, from our perspective, we need a lot of specific knowledge around financial services. So we certainly need a heavy component of that. And thankfully we do, not surprisingly. We certainly need representation from technology. We have that. We'd like to have a little more representation from people who understand how to build brand, which is another critical issue for us. So there are a variety of skill sets that we could array today that are not only important as they have been in the past, but will really be important in terms of where we're taking the company in the future. And then from the perspective of diversity, really making sure as we look at the marketplace that we serve, breaking that down in terms of making sure that we have at least 50% women, and looking at the various communities that make up our community in the aggregate, making sure that those percentages are in line. That's really more unlike what the perfect board for us would look like.
In other countries, the government has strict regulations about board percentages, whether it be race, color, creed, etc. Would you like to see the U.S. government adopt similar practices?
I will tell you, I'm not a big fan of government regulation in general, but I will tell you this is an area where I think it needs to be considered. In fact, here in Massachusetts, a number of us were part of an effort that recently passed a non-binding resolution that the number of women on your board is at least around 20%. It's a start. It's not where we need to be. Again, it's a non-binding resolution. I wouldn't have minded to have seen it a little firmer. Because unfortunately, absent those sorts of guidelines, requirements, the issue just doesn't get enough focus as it should. We recently passed legislation around pay equity here in Massachusetts, putting in much more stringent requirements for companies in terms of looking at the overall compensation gap between their male and female employees. And I think, again, that's a good thing.
Bob, thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Appreciate the opportunity.
Bob Rivers, President and CEO of Eastern Bank.